Hello, confidence community. I am really excited to be here with you all today with Jessica DeMarchis. This is going to be a good one, especially for you coaches out there. This is how to be a great coach because Jessica has created a program to help us all accomplish exactly that, not just to be coaches, good coaches, but great coaches. I am in her program. We are almost at the end. We end in a couple of weeks, actually. And it's been such an amazing experience that I'm having her on here to really grace us all with some really amazing information. So, Jess, hello. Go
Hi.
ahead and say hi to everyone and just share a little bit about, your vital statistics, who you are, and a little bit of your story and how you went from, being a therapist to a coach.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Amy. I'm super excited. It's my second time in this group space, so hopefully some familiar
Yes.
faces. Um, but yeah, I'm Jess, and I'm a therapist turned coach. I've been in the industry for 15 years. So just to kind of give you a snapshot, I got introduced to personal growth when I hired my first life coach in 2009. And this is my third successful company. And it all started 15 years ago when I hired that coach in my first business. And I was successful and found it really valuable. And it allowed me to be lucrative in that business so that I could pay for college and then eventually graduate school. Because I always knew I wanted to be a therapist, but as a first generation college goer growing up in poverty, I didn't have the resources. So I utilized that business to pay for my education. And when I graduated, I got licensed and I did research and I taught at the graduate level because I love the practice of psychology and I really found my niche in trauma. But behind the scenes, I never let go of that entrepreneurial side of me or life coaching. I kept investing in coaches, business coaching. I went to Tony Robbins events. I got certified in NLP because for me, I always saw the parallel between the two practices of coaching and therapy. And I felt like they really complemented one another and that coaching was missing some psychological underpinnings. And I feel like psychology was missing some of the solution focused energetics of coaching. And so for me, I always had the vision eventually I would blend the two. And in 2018, I did when I started my coaching company full time. And about 3 years ago, when I finally finalized the art and skill of coaching, and we launched our first certification class.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all of that. That just really resonates with me personally because, I was a nurse and when I finally said yes to myself and decided to do the dream job and become a coach, what had always fascinated me was psychology. So I remember when I was even debating becoming a coach, I was actually debating becoming a psychiatric nurse practitioner and like kind of going in that realm. But coaching was just calling to me for so many other reasons. I love healing and psychology, but I love the like moving forward aspect of it. Um, so with that said, first share a little bit about what makes a coach versus a great coach in your eyes.
Mm. I love this question and I can nerd out, so let me try to be concise. Um, I think coaching is a really great practice. And I think coaching at the basic level is having some of those soft skills, being a good listener, creating a non-judgmental space, being encouraging and supportive, and asking good questions to facilitate self-awareness. I think that those are the basic foundational pieces to any coaching, regardless of any niche, any offer. I also think that there are elements to good coaching that include not just mentorship, and maybe a little bit of sharing of information and tips. But I think what the difference between good coaching and great coaching is that we're moving out of that supportive, friendly, basic coaching of SMART goals and supportive space and building awareness, and maybe even moving a client deeper Great coaching is when we actually are not only able to support a client and maybe move them deeper by cultivating awareness, but we have the actual skill set to effectively, quickly, and consistently also move a client forward. And not just move them forward by changing their results, by quickly changing their behavior, but forever changing the results and sustainably creating progress that keeps compounding on itself because we're going beyond the behavior and into the beliefs. And that does require skill set. It does require additional training. It does require some basic understanding of human psychology because there's a science to change and you can learn it. And as long as you learn it and practice it and get feedback, I do think any good coach can become a great coach. It's just a skill deficit, that's all.
Hmm. Yeah. You talk about that a lot in the program about coaching from skill versus energy, or coaching from skill versus intuition. And how can someone really make that leap and make that change and know that they're actually coaching from a set of skills and what they know versus just what they think is the next best question?
Yeah, well, I think you just answered the question there. I think there's a difference between intuition and sharing information and going based off of your experience versus coaching from skill. When you coach from skill, there's a process, there's a framework, there is a technique that you are always using to facilitate a client's progress versus the other one is you're kind of throwing things at the wall that worked for you or that you are feeling or thinking versus knowing what to do based on where the client is and where they want to go and a proven modality that's going to close that gap. So I think that's the difference where it's like, what am I feeling versus what am I thinking and what am I feeling versus what do I know would work in this scenario?
Hmm.
That's a really good distinction. And I'm not saying your intuition is bad or sharing expertise that you may have gathered through your own journey is bad, but there's a difference from trying to motivate a client through your energy or coach a client through their problem that you solved your way or sharing your intuition, which is really just a projection of your own feelings and subconscious bias
Hmm.
versus utilizing a technique and utilizing a tool that works for the person in front of you.
Hmm.
I think that discernment is a really beautiful place. Like that's what all the masters do. Tony Robbins isn't sitting on stage saying, I feel you need this. Tony Robbins is on stage using techniques that he has mastered through learning them, practicing them, and mastering them over the last few decades.
Yeah, that is so good. And you mentioned Tony Robbins a lot in the program as we are like almost at the end. And that really was something new for me. I just want to say, like, that I don't feel like was kind of reinforced in my first coaching certification of really coaching from a skill set. And I got to say, as someone who is a confidence coach that coaches a lot of coaches, that is something that a lot of the coaches will bring in, that they lack confidence in their own coaching skill set, or they don't feel 100% positive that they can bring value into their coaching container. So I am just curious, what are some of those evidence-based tools or modalities that you think are like really important for a coach to learn that will come into your program?
Yeah, well, I want to say one thing before we do talk about that. And it's, I think confidence, particularly as a coach, but in any industry, any role, comes from building your competency. And
Hmm.
there is something called the learning theory that talks about this. So, this is something that you could read more about if you're like, oh, is that really how you build confidence? Yes. Think about it. Confidence is when you feel self-assured. It's when you feel certain. It's when you know how to do something. How do you know how to do something? You've learned it and you practiced it, right? So when you learn something and practice it over and over again to the point where you build competency, you will feel capable and certain and know what to do. And that is what creates confidence. So I just wanted to say that
Yes.
because I think that people chase this confidence thinking it's elusive or thinking that you're born with it or you aren't. Confidence is a skill that you build. Confidence is not a personality trait that you have or don't have. So I think that that distinction is important too. So what we focus on inside of the art and skill of coaching to build your competency is three foundational pillars. So the first foundational pillar is your skill set in creating safety. Safety isn't just, oh, I create safety with my clients because I like them, they like me, and I make them feel good. There is a science to creating psychological safety, and we teach you that. So that is
Mm.
pillar one, because
Mm.
without psychological safety, you actually can't access the part of the brains that are responsible for problem solving, creativity, and growth. So that's pillar one. Pillar two are what we call the hard skills. These are the working on the brain. So this is mindset coaching. This is dismantling belief systems. This is working with resistant clients and creating sustainable motivation. This is values driven behavior. This is mental health basics and how to notice if trauma is the block to your client. So those are the second pillar of tools that you will get. The third group, and that's why it's called the art and skill of coaching, because those are the skill sets, and then we move into the art form, which you can only develop after you've built your competency. And here is when we start to learn how to coach the body. So this is nervous system regulation. This is deep coaching. This is coaching on the subconscious level and literally changing the way that people think, believe, and react on a subconscious level. This is
Mm.
facilitating groups and retreats and powerful containers. And so I think those are the three pillars. There's a lot of tool sets and trainings within each, but that's why it's called the art and skill of coaching and why our logo is a triangle, because I think to be a really strong coach, you need all three pillars, starting with that foundation, then the brain, then the body. So I can go into more detail, but that's kind of an overview of the types of trainings and the types of skills that you'll learn inside of ASC.
Yes. And I love that you explained that. That makes so much sense. And for me personally, I had gone to the deep end first with my clients, which I actually came into your program to kind of back it up and learn that phase too, which was the mindset coaching. That's really where I was lacking. And I, had an intuitive sense that I was lacking there. And, with the first program that I was in, it was great because it got me into the coaching industry and I just started coaching. But I definitely have learned by trial and error. And, getting feedback from my clients, I actually did. I had a client who did not want to go to the deeper end. She wanted that mindset coaching. And I remember just always feeling like I was falling short there. So coming into your program has helped me out so much. And as a matter of fact, I just got off a call with a client literally before this call. And she brought up like a heavy feeling and it was related to a belief, and I just did right like the coaching star that you taught us, and she came up with her own neutral thought in the end. And it was like such a win for me, Jess, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I would have not been able to simply coach her to a great outcome in 2 minutes if
Yes.
I hadn't come into your program. And well, there's two areas I want to go to resistance, but I really want you to talk about a huge takeaway for me personally was you talking about like the client's own language.
Yes.
And I just want you to kind of speak to that a little bit because that was really mind blowing for me. And I have brought that in on such a deeper level and it's so profound. So just kind of share a little bit why using the client's language versus us using our language or paraphrasing is so important in a container.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will summarize and repeat back what they heard, and that is important. That is an element of active listening, which does create safety. However, what I've noticed is exactly what you said, Amy. A lot of people will summarize and paraphrase based on what they heard and their understanding of what they heard versus what the client said. And so, what this does is our brain is split. There's like a barrier between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And what ends up happening is when you're repeating something back to a client in your language versus theirs, or your understanding versus what they said exactly, that's why you always see me with a pen in my hand. I take notes because I know
Mhm.
the power of this. It never crosses that barrier. It stays in the conscious mind, and in the conscious mind, we contemplate, do we agree or disagree?
Yeah.
versus when we get into the subconscious mind, we accept it as true and it enters the part of the brain where we start to process and integrate. So when you use the client's exact verbiage, it's their words. So their brain's like, yep, I get it. I got it. I agree. And we're working on such a deeper level. And that simple shift can create massive like changes in your coaching because things are going to resonate. You're going to have less resistance. Clients are going to be able to integrate information quicker and they're going to be able to move further faster because we're working with 95% of the brain, not just the 5. And so if you don't take notes during your sessions, that is the one thing you could implement today that would change your coaching significantly.
Oh, I love that because I'm just even thinking of you were coaching me personally on I wanted to make like this launch feel like the last launch. And I went into this whole spiel and the last launch felt like this and this and this and this. And then you just said, okay, Amy, so how can you move forward in this launch? And literally you gave me all my own words back. And I remember I just had like, you're right. It just, I was able to move forward so much quicker. And it's just a testament to really how masterful you are at coaching because for you, it almost seems seamless, but there's so much intentional thought and skill in the way you coach, which is, another piece of this container that I love personally. I love the intimacy of it, but I love that we're getting coached by you, that I'm getting a live example. I get to watch the other women get coached you using these. And I love that you teach
Mhm.
while you're coaching. It's just it's really been a great experience altogether. I do want to ask you, is resistance a problem in a coaching container?
No. The problem is that coaches get scared and they either push or shy away. No, resistance is actually a good thing. And if you're not having resistance in your coaching containers, you're doing a disservice to your clients because they're not growing. Here's the thing. I'm really big in the gym. If I'm not sore, my muscles aren't growing. I didn't push myself to a limit. There's a difference between pain and injury and soreness. Soreness is a good thing. You want to be sore because you want to grow, you want to stress your muscles, you want to expand your capacity. And so resistance is actually a natural stage of change. When you look at change, whether it's losing weight, starting a business, becoming more confident, handling conflict better, whatever the change is, it is a new skill set. And there's uncertainty and there's going to be difficulty as people stumble forward. And that's where the resistance happens. It's fear, it's nervousness, it's insecurity coming up. And so don't be afraid when resistance shows up. Just become skillful at handling it because that's going to be the majority of the value in your coaching is to be able to facilitate clients through that experience so that they can get on the other side of continuing to take action until they get the result. Because this is where most people fail. So where most coaching falls flat, and this is where most individuals who even have a goal, a New Year's resolution, or even start a journey never finish because they get stuck in that resistance. And it's really hard to move through on your own because of our psychological blind points, our circumstances that are difficult to overcome on our own, or the skill or cognitive deficits that we have that coaching could really solve. So don't be afraid of resistance. Resistance is a good sign that your client is on the verge of a breakthrough. Do not prematurely push them, but don't shy away from it. Get in there with them and work through the resistance to help them overcome that so that they can keep implementing what they're doing to get the results. So don't be afraid of resistance. Resistance is good.
Yeah, I hope everybody heard that. Resistance is a natural, normal part of change. And I want to ask, how can we as coaches get out of the client's way, right? Like it's just such this interesting dynamic that we're coaching a client, and maybe we believe like we have to fix or solve their problems. Maybe we believe we need to energetically give them something. Just what would you say on what is the best way for a coach to get out of their own way more when coaching their clients?
Yeah, I think I stole this from my decade as a therapist, but I think it really serves me as a coach, and I try to teach it to my students inside of the Art and Skill of Coaching. You have to remember your role. Your role is to be a model, not a martyr. Your role is to be a coach, not a cheerleader. Your role is to be a facilitator and support them in their journey, not solve their issues, right? You have to honor the boundaries of your work. You are there to help the client help themselves. And I think I was more comfortable in releasing control of the process when I trusted myself and my skill set. I knew that I might not get a breakthrough this session. I might not get a breakthrough in the first 30 days, but I knew and trusted my process and my skill set that if I locked arms with clients for the duration of my program, that they would get the result needed by the end, or at least have the skill set needed to eventually get the result. And so
Mm,
my trust started coming in my self as a coach and my skill set and honoring the boundaries and trusting the process and trusting the client. That's another little sticky thought that I think a lot of coaches don't realize. They don't trust their process themselves or their clients. And so they grasp and they work hard and they overgive and they solve the problem and they enable the client and they give the answer. And it's exhausting and it's not sustainable and it's not predictable. So you really have to lean back and do some self work to really understand what is my role as a coach? What is my process? What is my skill set? And how can I trust that I can get the client or facilitate the result? Um, and that comes from, again, building skill and practicing it over and over again. So I hope that makes sense. That's a little bit like of an advanced answer, but that's the truth. I think that's how you manage that.
no, that makes sense. And it's been really impactful for me. Because basically what you said is your job this, right? Their job that. Like our job is to support them in their problems and to use a skill set of coaching, which is helping a client through transformation and to trust in myself to be able to execute that skill set, trust in the process that it is working, even if I don't see it working in this very second. That has been really helpful for me, even just doubling down on that. And I felt the shift in myself and in my coaching container. I can see it in my clients now that I've really cleaned up my own boundaries and my own mindset of what I'm there to do. I think when you know what your job is, like when you're really clear as to what your job is, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is not being so clear as to what our jobs are in the beginning when we're kind of first like led into the
Yeah.
coaching space. So you really do, I got to say, a beautiful job of being really clear and simplifying what our job is as a coach. And that's been huge for me, like really big. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And you've been such a great student. And I'm
Hmm.
able to watch you coach because of the audits and because of your peers and things like that. And I've seen you grasp the concepts and I've heard you on our group coaching, the way that you're implementing boundaries and shortening your coaching and getting them results quicker. And it's because you're implementing the structure. Like you have the heart, you have the intangibles, you even had some of the basic skills. We just came in and you used the verbiage without any judgment. Like we cleaned it up so that you could be more effective and powerful, and it's showing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it. I actually really love having a full client load as I'm in your program because it is so just, I just implement it. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be great, and I just like implement it right away. Some of the things that you're giving, I kind of like already had an intake form, but I added on those really important questions that you gave about getting that, like, just that foundational information. And what is one skill or mindset shift that you believe every coach should develop to take their coaching to the next level?
Mm. Oh, I love this. My mind's going in so many directions, but here's what's like coming to the forefront. It's important. to accurately assess, understand, and see your client. I think sometimes we see our clients as a problem. And hear me out. I don't think that we're like, you're the problem, but we see our client as they need to lose 10 pounds. They need to leave their husband. They need to feel more confident. They need clients in their business. We look at the problem and how quickly we can solve the problem to make our client feel better. And I think a massive shift that would change everything for everyone involved is if we looked at the client as a person, not a problem. So the problem doesn't happen in isolation. Someone's not struggling with weight loss just because of their eating habits. Someone's not struggling with confidence just because it's their first time running a business. We are very complex individuals with psychology, circumstances, genetics, demographics, race, age, sexual orientation, education, family history, ability, if people are divorced, income level, all of these things impact our clients. Now, I'm not saying that you need to solve for all of them things, but when you can look at a client not as a silo, like this is my client and this is their problem, let me fix it so they feel better, but this is my client in a very complex environment, it's going to help us understand the person and the problem more holistically and be able to come up with a plan that is way more accurate, way more comprehensive, and way more sustainable because we're addressing not just the problem, we're addressing the person. So we're moving out of that like quick fix intervention, put a band-aid on a broken bone, to really going in and understanding what's happening and coming up with a plan that's actually going to solve the issue.
Yeah, that was really deep. So basically, looking at your client more holistically as a person in this complex environment, and yeah, you do get into that in the program, and that is huge because when we really get into the nitty-gritty and into the subconscious, all of that is coming into play in, like you said, them struggling to lose 10 pounds
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Okay. What advice do you have for coaches who feel like imposters, especially when they're first starting out?
Hmm. We all start somewhere. We all start somewhere, and there are people right now that will only learn from you, will only work with you, and that you are capable of helping right now. And don't compare your step 3 to someone's step 30. You've probably heard that, right? So don't compare yourself to Amy, don't compare yourself to me. Know that I have 15 years in this industry. Amy has 5 years in this industry. Like, we're just a few steps ahead. It's not that we're better, more capable, or more talented. We've just been doing it longer. So trust your process, trust your journey. Know that there are people that will only work with you. They won't hire Amy, they won't hire me, but they will hire you. So have the courage to get out there and put the reps in. And I think that word I just said is really the way that I would summarize my advice for someone struggling with imposter syndrome. It's focus on what do you know for sure right now, and how can I be of service right now, and have the courage to show up and serve. And then all the things like the capability, the experience, the confidence, the success will come after that. But the courage comes first.
Yeah. And courage never feels good. It feels like imposter syndrome and fear and doubt and all of that. So, yeah, it can't be undermined how important courage and you say commitment is in the
Yeah.
process of building confidence. Well,
Yeah.
Jess, this has been so awesome. I really appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom with us. And is there anything else? Is there anything else that maybe I didn't ask you that you feel like you want to share with the audience?
I think this was like a really beautiful conversation. I just appreciate
Mm,
you being so prepared and asking great questions. I would encourage people, if you feel committed to your coaching practice and you want to improve your ability to coach, to look at the art and skill of coaching. It is a training program where we focus on building your capability of coaching through building your skill set. And it's pretty advanced. So we're going to go beyond the basics and you're going to really have a powerful toolbox. So I would encourage people to check it out if they're interested. And I'm sure Amy will have my information, but there's also the podcast where you can learn from free. I'm pretty active on social. But I would say it's such a blessing to be a coach, and I think that we have an ethical responsibility to do a good job. And don't get caught up in the rhetoric of only investing in your business strategy and neglect investing in your coaching skill. If you want to be a great coach, it's not just about income, it's about impact too. And the coaches that make it in this industry a long time are the ones who are providing value. And your value comes from being effective and getting clients results. So just want to say, it's important as a coach to know that you are not only running a business, but you are still providing a service and that you want to invest equally in your strategy and your skill set.
Yes. And I really can attest to Jess's program. Jess, I really do see your strength of teaching. I do see your strength of like implementing these skill sets and simplifying them in a way for anyone to understand, like really giving us the meat and potatoes of what we need as coaches. It's just really been amazing being in your program. I'm like so happy that I said yes. And it was really just speaking to me, like it was calling to me. The main thing, it's why I titled this Become a Great Coach, because that was the thing that you said that I was like, I want to be a great
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
Like I want to be a great coach. And like you said, I already had all those. I love how you define the soft skills versus the hard skills. And we know, like, I want to speak to anyone that's watching this, like, you intuitively know what you need to be better at. And there's no shame in knowing what it is that you need help with. And I can totally attest that coming into Jess's program, the art and skill of coaching, will be something that you will thank yourself for in the long run. I just want to say that, in my own little gratitude practice over the last couple of months, I really have been very grateful to myself for coming in and grateful to you and your expertise, because you're right, we can get really hung up on learning all the ins and outs of entrepreneurship. And then we can forget about we all, because everyone that's watching this, that's a coach, loves what they're doing. They're actually, most of them are nurses that want to actually be fulfilled by their own purpose to help people. So I know that their heart's in the right place. And yeah, I'm just going to say that if you are lacking the confidence in your own skill set, that Jess's program would be an amazing choice for you.
Hmm. Thank you, Amy. Like I said, I've loved having you. And I'm sure if anyone's in your space and in your world, that they would love the art and skill of coaching as well. So,
So to everyone watching, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for showing up here, Jess. I'm going to put all of Jess's information in here for you guys to check her out. She's got her podcast, she's got her weekly newsletter, and she's got her amazing program, The Art and Skill of Coaching. And she just made it even better. Jess, just tell the thing that you just put in, because she just
oh,
put
yeah.
something new in it that we didn't even get, that
I
I was so
know.
like jealous of. I was like, oh my God, that sounds so great.
Yeah, so what I've realized is I really want to make art and skill of coaching like a one-stop shop. I want you to have everything you need. We talked about those foundational three pillars, and what I realized is that not only do you need the structure in the front end of your business and your coaching skill and in your client onboarding system and all the things, but you actually need the structure, systems, and strategies and skill sets on the back end of your business as well to create safety and consistency for you as the coach and for your clients. And so what we're doing for the first time ever, and I'm super excited, is we're kicking off our 6-month certification training program with a business bonus basics boot camp week. Lots of B's, right? But
Mm.
basically, we're going to do an additional 10 hours of training to give you everything you need to clean up the back end of your business so that it is systemized and strategic and scalable. So we're going to go over everything from offer creation to pricing, organic marketing, lead generation and tracking, closing consultations, onboarding processes, and documentation, contracts, invoicing, client communications. We're bringing in experts. It's going to be 10 hours to make sure that you are all buckled up, cleaned up, and clear on the back end of your business so that when we start our 6-month training program, you have everything you need to be bringing clients in a way that's in alignment with the coaching process framework and skill sets we're going to be teaching you for the front end. So we're, again, really just trying to clean it up so you have the structure, the systems, and the skill sets to be a great coach, back end, front end. So you got everything you need.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for being here with us, everyone, and drop your questions. I'll be checking. Bye.